Okay, so we're diving deep into cancel culture today.
Mm.
A term that, well, it seems to be everywhere these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And, you're right to think it's more than just a trending topic. It's really like it's a force shaping how we interact online, how we hold each other accountable, even how we express ourselves.
Yeah.
But here's something that might surprise you. While it feels very of the moment,
Right.
the idea of canceling someone, it has roots going back decades,
Mm.
especially in Black culture.
Yeah, it's true. Think about movies like New Jack City from the
Oh,
90s,
yeah.
or even reality shows like Love and Hip Hop, where the idea of like canceling someone who'd crossed a line was already part of the language. It wasn't
Yeah.
born on Twitter. It evolved from like real world social dynamics.
So how to go from those specific communities to this global phenomenon? It feels like social media poured gasoline on the fire.
Right. Yeah. I mean, social media, especially Twitter, it acts like a megaphone and an accelerant.
Hmm.
It allows for the rapid spread of information,
Yeah.
sometimes accurate, sometimes not. And it gives individuals a platform to uh, voice their outrage and demand action, right?
Hmm.
This can lead to boycotts, public shaming, and even professional consequences for the target. And it can all happen like incredibly fast.
And we've seen this play out in recent years with movements like #MeToo and #Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely. Those movements, they harness the power of social media
Hmm.
to amplify their messages and demand justice.
Yeah.
But it's also crucial to acknowledge cases
Yeah.
like Alexander Rogers, the student who tragically took his own life after facing intense online ostracism.
That case is heartbreaking, and it really brings the mental health aspect of all of this to the forefront. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder, how can we hold people accountable without causing undue harm? It feels like a tightrope walk between justice and compassion.
It is a complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah.
There are strong arguments both for and against cancel culture. On one hand, it can empower marginalized communities you know, to hold individuals accountable for harmful actions,
Right.
especially when traditional systems fail.
So it's a way of kind of leveling the playing field, giving a voice to those who've been historically silenced.
In some ways, yes, it provides a platform for collective action
Yeah.
and can force those in power to reckon with their behavior.
Mm.
But on the other hand, there are concerns about due process, the potential for mob mentality, and the chilling effect it can have on free speech.
Because if people are afraid of being canceled, they might self-censor, right? That could stifle important conversations and lead to a lack of diverse viewpoints. How is this chilling effect, as it's called? How does it actually work?
Okay, so imagine you have an unpopular opinion, or even just a different take on a sensitive topic, right?
Yeah.
You see others being attacked online for expressing similar views.
Right.
The natural reaction for many is to stay silent, even if they believe what they have to say is valid.
Yeah.
That self-censorship, that's the chilling effect in action. It creates an environment where only certain opinions are deemed safe to share.
I'm starting to see why this topic is so tricky. It's not just about, right and wrong. It's about how we as a society navigate these gray areas where freedom of speech bumps up against the need for accountability.
Hmm.
But let's break down the mechanics of cancel culture itself. How does this whole process typically unfold?
It often starts with someone, a public figure, or even a brand, doing or saying something perceived as offensive or harmful or insensitive, right?
Mhm.
This could be a recent action or even something from their past that resurfaces online.
And then what, social media takes over?
Exactly. The information spreads rapidly through social media platforms. People express outrage, often
Yeah.
using hashtags to amplify their message. And because information travels so fast online, something that might have taken weeks to become public knowledge, it can go viral in a matter of hours.
Wow.
This is where terms like social contagion come into play.
Social contagion. I'm not familiar with that one.
Think about how quickly like emotions and behaviors can spread through a crowd. Social media can function similarly. Outrage can spread rapidly, sometimes leading to a mob mentality where individuals get swept up in the momentum without fully understanding the situation or considering the nuances.
So it's like a wildfire fueled by the speed and reach of the internet. It can be difficult to control or put out once it starts.
Precisely. And this is where the idea of deplatforming often comes in. It's It's an attempt to limit the reach of someone deemed harmful
Yeah.
by removing their access to platforms like Twitter or YouTube,
Mm.
effectively silencing them. This raises questions about censorship
Mm.
and the power these platforms wield.
So for the person being canceled, what kind of consequences are we talking about?
It varies widely. It could be something as simple as losing followers or facing negative comments, but for others it can lead to job loss, damage to reputation, or even difficulty finding work in their field.
It sounds like the stakes are incredibly high. Is there any kind of due process involved?
That's one of the main criticisms of cancel culture. There often isn't a formal process for determining guilt or innocence.
Hmm.
It becomes a trial by public opinion, where someone can be judged and punished without a fair chance to defend themselves.
It feels like we're navigating uncharted territory here. The digital world moves so fast, and the traditional rules of engagement don't always apply.
Right.
It seems like we're still figuring out how to balance accountability with fairness in this new landscape.
You're absolutely right, and this is where understanding the nuances of cancel culture becomes crucial.
Yeah.
We need to move beyond simplistic arguments and engage in thoughtful discussions about how to navigate this complex terrain.
Yeah, it's definitely complex.
Oh,
Lots to unpack here.
For sure, and it's essential to remember that this isn't just about abstract concepts. We're talking about real people, and the very real impact this can have on their lives. The case of Alexander Rogers really highlights that.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that the online world, while it can feel separate, it has very real consequences. And this case specifically brings the mental health aspect to the forefront. Being publicly shamed, ostracized online, facing that kind of harassment, it's bound to take a toll.
Absolutely. There's a growing body of research looking at the psychological effects of online shaming and social ostracism. It can trigger feelings of isolation, anxiety, depression, and in some cases even suicidal thoughts.
It's a heavy topic, but it feels crucial to acknowledge the human cost of these online interactions. We can't forget that there's a person on the other side of the screen.
Right, and this circles back to that central question we keep bumping up against. How do we navigate this tension between accountability and compassion? How do we call out harmful behavior without inflicting unnecessary harm?
It feels like the answer lies somewhere in the gray area, doesn't it? Not in absolutes or black and white thinking, but in nuance and understanding.
I think you're spot on, and part of finding that balance it lies in promoting media literacy and critical thinking. Right, we need to be equipped to discern fact from fiction, to recognize bias, and to approach information with a healthy dose of skepticism.
So it's not just about what we say or do online. It's about how we process and interpret the information we're constantly bombarded with.
Precisely. We need to be more discerning consumers of information, especially in an age where misinformation can spread like wildfire, right?
No.
And that goes hand in hand with fostering empathy and understanding. It's recognizing that we all make mistakes,
Yeah.
that people can change and grow.
That doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean approaching situations with a more nuanced understanding of human fallibility.
Yeah, exactly. Cancel culture often assumes a kind of moral purity, a black and white view of good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is far more complex. People are capable of change, and redemption should be part of the equation.
This all feels very theoretical. Do you have any real world examples that illustrate how this plays out?
Plenty. Think about the case of comedian Louis C.K., who faced accusations of sexual misconduct. He admitted to the allegations and lost numerous professional opportunities. His career took a massive hit.
And that sparked a lot of debate about whether his apology was genuine, whether he deserved a second chance, whether the consequences were proportionate to the actions.
Exactly. It became a case study in the complexities of cancel culture. Another example is Kevin Hart, who stepped down from hosting the Oscars after homophobic tweets from his past resurfaced.
That one really highlighted the permanence of the digital footprint. Things you said or did years ago, they can come back to haunt you. And it raises questions about how we judge people based on past action, especially when they've expressed remorse or shown personal growth.
Right. It also demonstrated how how cancel culture can intersect with, issues of social justice and representation.
Yeah, I know.
In Hart's case, it wasn't just about individual accountability,
Yeah.
but about broader cultural sensitivities and expectations.
It feels like with these high-profile cases, there's often a lot of nuance that gets lost in the online frenzy.
Mm.
It's easy to get swept up in the outrage and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there are cases like the band Brand New.
Yeah.
The lead singer Jesse Lacey. He faced accusations of sexual misconduct with minors, though no charges were ever filed. The band faced significant backlash, with some fans calling for a boycott,
Yeah.
and others grappling with feelings of betrayal.
That one's especially interesting because it wasn't just about one individual. It impacted an entire band and their fan base.
Hmm?
It highlights the ripple effects of these situations and how they can extend, far beyond the individual being canceled.
And it speaks to the emotional toll this can take on fans and supporters, right?
Right.
Imagine like feeling deeply connected to an artist's work, only to find out they've engaged in harmful behavior. That can be incredibly difficult to process.
These examples really paint a picture of how cancel culture, operates in practice.
Yeah,
It's messy, it's complicated, and it's rarely straightforward.
it's a constantly evolving phenomenon that reflects deeper societal tensions regarding justice, accountability, and the power of online platforms to shape our culture.
While cancel culture might grab the headlines, I'm curious about the systemic factors that contribute to it. You mentioned this earlier. Can you elaborate on that?
Of course,
Yeah.
cancel culture often emerges in response to a perceived lack of accountability.
Yeah.
In traditional systems, when people feel like their voices aren't being heard.
Yeah.
Or that justice isn't being served through established channels, they may turn to social media as a means of demanding change.
So it's not just about individuals being, bad or making mistakes. It's about the limitations of our existing systems for addressing harm and promoting accountability.
Exactly. Cancel culture, in many ways, it's a symptom of deeper societal issues. If we want to address it in a meaningful way, we need to look beyond individual behavior and consider how we can create more just and equitable systems.
That's a huge undertaking, but it feels like an essential part of the conversation.
It is, and it's a conversation that requires a nuanced and multifaceted approach. We need to be willing to examine our own biases, to challenge systems of oppression, and to advocate for structural change.
So it's about recognizing that cancel culture, while it might feel like a solution in the moment, is ultimately a Band-Aid on a much larger wound.
I think that's a powerful way to put it. It's about addressing the root causes of injustice, not just the symptoms.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. The origins of cancel culture, the arguments for and against it, the role of social media, the impact on different groups, the mental health implications. It's a lot to unpack. But as we wrap up, I keep coming back to that question of what we do with all this.
Yeah.
How do we move forward in a way that promotes accountability, but also fosters, dialogue and understanding?
It's a question we all need to grapple with, especially as cancel culture continues to shape our online interactions.
Yeah.
And while there's no easy answer, I think part of the solution lies in fostering media literacy and critical thinking skills.
So it's not just about being careful what we post online. It's also about being more discerning about the information we're consuming.
Exactly. We're bombarded with information from all sides, and it's crucial to be able to sift through that information, to recognize bias, to evaluate sources, and to avoid getting swept up in the emotional currents of the online world.
It sounds like you're advocating for a more thoughtful, almost skeptical approach to online engagement.
In a way, yes. But skepticism doesn't have to be cynical, right? It's about approaching information with a critical eye, asking questions, considering different perspectives, and being willing to change our minds when presented with new evidence.
That feels especially important in the context of, cancel culture, where things can escalate so quickly and judgments are often made based on, incomplete information.
Absolutely. We need to resist the urge to rush to judgment, to
Yeah.
give ourselves and others the space to think critically and to engage in meaningful dialogue even when it's uncomfortable.
And that requires a willingness to listen, even to those we disagree with.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everyone has a story, that there are often, multiple sides to every issue, and that understanding doesn't necessarily equate to condoning. We can hold someone accountable for their actions while also, acknowledging their humanity and allowing for the possibility of growth and change.
It sounds like you're advocating for a more nuanced approach to accountability, one that recognizes the complexities of human behavior.
Precisely. Cancel culture often operates in a very black and white framework,
Hmm.
but the reality is far more nuanced. People are capable of, making mistakes, learning from them, and becoming better. Redemption should be part of the conversation.
And that ties back to that idea of fostering empathy, right?
Right.
Putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, even if we don't condone their actions.
Absolutely. Empathy is crucial. It doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but
Mm.
it does mean recognizing the shared humanity that connects us all.
This all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually put this into practice? It can feel overwhelming to navigate this online landscape where
Right.
outrage and judgment often seem to dominate.
It's certainly a challenge, but I think it starts with small steps. Being more mindful of our own online behavior, being more deliberate about the information we consume and share, engaging in respectful dialogue even when we disagree, and advocating for systemic change that addresses the root causes of injustice.
So it's about individual actions,
Yeah.
but also about recognizing the larger societal forces at play.
Exactly. Cancel culture is a symptom of deeper issues, and addressing those issues requires,
Okay.
collective action and a commitment to creating a more just and equitable world.
We've explored a lot of complexities around cancel culture today. It's a phenomenon that will likely continue to evolve as our relationship with social media changes. But as we wrap up, what's the key takeaway you want to leave listeners with?
I'd say it's the importance of thoughtful engagement. Resist the urge to react impulsively. Take the time to understand the nuances of a situation, to consider different perspectives, and to approach these conversations with empathy and a willingness to listen. Cancel culture is a conversation that requires careful navigation.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.